What up, everyone? Welcome to the newest episode of Tox Tells with your boy Patty, also known as Tox, also known as Toxin. And today, given the time of year, I thought it would be cool to do a New Year's Eve story. Since I already did a Christmas story last week for the holiday season, I figure the natural progression is to do a New Year's Eve story next, and what a banger of a story it is. And I apologize if I sound a little more docile than usual, not as excited as I usually am, because I worked an overnight last night, and I was stuck there for an extra hour after I was supposed to leave, and then I had to work again at 2 p.m., so it gave me a really finite time in between the two shifts to actually get any good and restful sleep. But I am home now, and I'm not going to let any of that stop me. I'm going to get this story out to you guys because it's a good one, and you need to hear it, and I really want you to hear it. So here we go. So this story takes place in either 2013 or 2014. I am not positive which one of those 2 years because, well, it was a long time ago. And I just know that I was at least still in college, but towards the end of my college career. So for New Year's Eve that year, I was out in the southern tier of New York State in a very small town near a Native American reservation. And my friend from college, he lived there now with his girlfriend. And the town that he lived in at that time, small town, that phrase does not even do it justice to describe just how tiny this place was. It was literally 4 or 5 buildings total for the entire town. And right in the center of that 4 or 5 building cluster, one of those buildings was the apartment building that he lived in. And it was a relatively big building, but not big by like city apartment building standards, just by small town standards. It was a 2-story red brick building, probably 8 or 9 apartments in each floor, and he was on the second floor. And before I go into details of what we were getting into that night and what we were up to, let me do this quick disclaimer. I have done this before in previous videos, but I have to do it again here because this video features some drug usage, so I do not condone any use of any drugs. None. This is all for entertainment purposes only, and don't do what I used to do, because it was never smart. Even if I had fun, it was never smart. It was never the safe and right thing to do. I just made dumb decisions back then. So please, don't take after me. Don't think that this is me endorsing that type of behavior at all. It's just a part of the story. So with that being said, we were hanging out at my friend's place, second floor of that apartment building I was talking about. There's probably about 5 or 6 of us total, all just me and my friends from college. It was a specific group of friends that always hung out together, and we decided for New Year's Eve we were going to partake in some acid, some LSD. And it's not like this was our first time ever doing it. It wasn't like our second or third time. It wasn't even our 10th or 11th time doing it. I have no idea how many times we had done it at that point, but too much. So we were not green when it came to this type of thing. We had quite a bit of experience, but it was something we enjoyed back then a lot. So we said, fuck it, for New Year's Eve, let's do this. Let's all get crazy with it. And from what I remember, it wasn't a over-the-top trip. It was not a crazy night. It was a fun night. It was a comfortable night. It was, crazy to an extent, of course, with the events I'll be talking about shortly, but they didn't really involve us and what we were doing for New Year's Eve, and you'll understand that in a second, but I just remember it being a pretty good night, pretty positive vibes all around, nobody freaking out, just having a good time with a bunch of people that I was close to and I loved very much, and just giggling, laughing, talking about crazy stuff, getting introspective with it. And before I get to the main incident of the night, the whole reason why we're here right now, I have to give you guys some more context. So my friend's apartment was on the second floor, like I said before, but this apartment building was set up in such a way that on the second floor there was access to a roof, but it was like a side roof kind of like a bordering roof that went around the entire radius of the entire apartment building. And because of that, it was a roof you could easily walk on. It was like completely flat. It had like maybe just like a slight angle to it, but very slight. It wasn't like a scary roof to be on. It wasn't like a risky roof to be on for the most part either. It was well supported. It did not feel like you were going to slip off and kill yourself. So, him having access to the roof and the nature of how the roof was, we would go out there a lot, just hang out, look at the stars, smoke some bogeys, bullshit, whatever we felt like doing at that time. But of course, it was New Year's Eve, so it was the winter. So it was definitely cold as shit out, but with a head full of acid, we did not give a fuck. We wanted to go out and look at those beautiful stars out in the country. And boy, were they beautiful that night. They were beautiful indeed. It was a clear sky. We could see a lot, and we were just out there enjoying the view. And if I remember correctly, midnight had already came and went. It was probably about an hour after, hour and a half after, 1 a.m., 1:30, something like that, when this whole thing went down. So in this tiny town that my friend lived in, right kitty corner across the street to his apartment building was the only bar in town. And it was like a backcountry, rural, like saloon type bar, if that makes sense. I don't know for sure what it was like other than what I could see from the outside, but that's like the vibe I got from it, and that's kind of how the building looked. And all night we could hear people over there getting rowdy, partying their faces off. It sounded like it was packed over there, like a big turnout of people for especially how small of a town it was. And we're just hanging out on the roof, as I said, and all of a sudden we hear uh, quite a bit of ruckus coming from that bar. And we look over and we see probably about 12 to 14 people start funneling out the front of that bar. And they're not like just walking or running, really. They're stumbling over each other and pushing each other. And it does not take much time at all for us to realize that also there are some fists being thrown. And when I say it was like 12 to 14 people, I don't mean just guys. It was a good mix of guys and gals, almost a 50-50 split, I would say. And they come pouring out into the street in front of the bar, and it is just pure chaos. It's already at 100% insanity. There's bottles being thrown, glass breaking, people screaming. The girls are getting after it just as much as the guys. And in the midst of all of it, I notice one guy specifically, and I'll never forget this memory because everyone else is, punching each other in the face, throwing each other, a couple guys on top of each other, girls pulling hair, all the usual stuff. But then there's this one guy, and he's just walking through the middle of this chaos. And he's not doing the regular stuff that you'd think he'd be doing in this type of situation. He's not punching anybody. He's not breaking bottles over anyone's heads. He's not hip tossing anybody. But what he is doing is he's just pushing people's faces as hard as he can. So hard, actually, that when I first saw him, I did think he was punching people, but then I looked closely and realized that he was implementing this face shoving technique that I had never seen before, especially in a massive bar brawl. And every single one of these people were toasted. They were all very hammered, and it was very obvious. You could tell by the sounds, their voices, the screaming, their movements. Nobody in this situation was sober, and that makes sense because a sober person probably would not involve themselves in a situation like this or watch it happen or hang out long enough for it to get to that point. But us, in the state that we're in, we're just completely awestruck. Our jaws have hit the floor. We're silent for the first few minutes, and then we just start laughing so hard because it's just such a ridiculous situation to just watch unfold from the beautiful, comfortable spot that we had. And I will never forget it. It was quite a spectacle. And then eventually the fight finally starts to kind of break up, and people start going their separate ways. And one couple starts walking towards my friend's apartment. So that rooftop area that we were hanging out on was kind of like an awning over the ground level below the apartment building because there was like just like a cover on the outsides of the apartment building. And they walk underneath that. So they're like right below us. Have no idea we're up there. But as they're walking up, you can hear the guy is bawling his eyes out, just crying like a little girl. And it's kind of sad, but also hilarious. And his girl is just berating him, just telling him, "You're not a man. You need to stick up for yourself. You need to stick up for me. You didn't even fight." And he's just crying, I know, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. And we're like, what is happening? This is the most insane thing ever that any of us have experienced. Like, we did not expect this to be the way this night was going to go. And clearly, this guy did not do well in this brawl. He apparently got his ass beat. But I honestly did feel bad for the guy, especially with the way that his girlfriend or wife or whatever she was to him was talking to him about it and just putting him down the whole time and emasculating him. But in the moment, we couldn't do anything but laugh. And after that, not much else happened. That was pretty much all of the craziness for the night. I think the rest of the night was pretty chill. We just enjoyed the rest of our trip and, eventually wound down to go to sleep. And I probably went home the next day. I don't remember. It was that long ago, but I will never forget seeing that on New Year's Eve. And that's going to be it for today, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in and listening to this crazy New Year's Eve story I had for you. Drop a like on the video, show some support, put a comment down in the section of your crazy New Year's Eve stories, and subscribe if you're new. That's all. Peace out, yo.
I roll around the city with a trunk full of chains. Another slasher killing biddies. I'm the sadist to blame. I'm making waves in the